hoping that we would get snow here in South Carolina because we hardly see it. We just us South Carolinians, that's how we think. But of course, it's different for you guys.
Yeah, we're looking at somewhere between like 12 and 24 inches. Nobody seems to know here where I live in Ohio. So my dog's excited, but that's about it.
Wow. Well, I have a clip I want to play first before we get into diving into the whole Don Lemon thing. So let's first recap why we are talking about Don Lemon by watching this quick video. This is from my TikTok channel, guys, and I kind of dissect this just a little bit, but we're going to get into more of the specifics, including the law surrounding this and the indictment. So let's play that first clip.
This is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live in there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yes. Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much.
So Don Lemon rolls up with these leftist radicals, storms right into City's church in St. Paul during worship, interrupts the service, scares families and kids, and then has the nerve to ambush the pastor for a CNN-style interview. This is straight up disgraceful. Does he think that this is how Christians act? And the pastor did a marvelous job at displaying Christ. I don't care if ICE is his side job. This is just clearly unacceptable, and I agree with the pastor. It's shameful to interrupt the public gathering of Christians in worship. I'm not even that surprised because Don Lemon is a straight up extension of what took place under the Biden administration. We watch Christians get targeted, pro-lifers raided, churches surveilled, faith attacked nonstop. There's no respect for God, no respect for his worship, and no respect for his church. And Don Lemon has the nerve to call himself a Christian. And this is what I really don't understand about where we are as a church. I don't get how we have Christian liberals, Christian conservatives, and Christian communists. Are we reading the same Bible? I shouldn't even ask that question because clearly Don Lemon just answered it. Very sorry for the pastors and the congregants that had to endure this. And I am praying God gets every last piece of glory from this situation. I want to quote something really quick. I just saw a pop-up from the President DJT from Truth Social. Says, among other things, this is a cover-up for the billions of dollars that have been stolen from the once great state, but soon to be great again of Minnesota. President Donald J. Trump.
Bingo. Well, first of all, well said in your video. You really nailed it. And yeah, Donald Trump's exactly right. We wouldn't be seeing this chaos if they didn't have $19+ billion of Somali fraud and other fraud to cover up. And again, like that hole keeps getting deeper and deeper. And I'm sorry, just with the COVID fraud alone, 7% of the community there, the Somali community, is involved. It's like this is entirely called for. Not to mention all the welfare fraud, Medicaid fraud, home health care fraud, and everything else that's going on. That they want to shield that, protect it. And unfortunately, like these delusional wine moms that are out there in the street now attacking ICE agents, they're helping to perpetrate that. And I think it's more important to allow them to defraud the American people. Well, no. Actually, let me take that back. They've just been brainwashed. In reality, like the Democrat Party wants to make sure nobody is deported so they can maintain political control of the area. And they're also relying on the votes. It was announced earlier this week that they'll actually be losing an electoral vote. They've already deported so many people. The state of Minnesota is going to lose a House member and lose a electoral college vote because of how many illegal aliens are in their state. And that's only going to expand. They have till, March 1st to self-deport all the ones that have been here on temporary protected status, which is another 90,000 people, which probably means their state's going to lose another electoral vote.
Well, let's hope that happens, because what I'm seeing from the Democrat Party, I consistently see all the time. And when we get even to the portion of the indictments of these individuals from Pam Bondi, I feel like she did do her job. However, her hands are tied when it comes to these judges that are in Minnesota that we are seeing right now that are rogue and are actually not fulfilling the law. They have an actual political agenda to fulfill versus doing their actual job. So we look at AG Keith Ellison. There's an interview of him talking about the FACE Act, and he only cites one portion of that, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, where he says that, oh, this protection of these people protesting, etc. Yeah, but like, who has ever seen somebody roll up in a church service during a church service, interrupt the church service, and then interviews the pastor during the service? That's usually something to be had after the service is over. You can talk to the pastor, you can shake their hands, you can ask them for a meeting, you can even ask them for an interview, you know, if you want to. But that's not something that you do mid-service. It's just disrespectful, it's rude, and it shows no respect for the church, the institution, or their rights. And the other part of the FACE Act, I'm going to cite this too, that I had to pull up as well, because, you know, we have to do our research when it comes to Democrat Party, any party, but definitely when it comes to them, because this dude he's an AG and he's only citing partial part of the law. Like, so the FACE Act, which is the freedom of access to clinic entrances, he cited just the portion where it says that it protects people's rights that are, you know, that during the Biden administration we had Christians, you know, whoever, that were silent, that were protesting abortion clinics. So he said it was basically there to protect those people that wanted to get an abortion and protect these clinics from those that didn't want people to get abortion, that were standing against that. But it also, because the Republicans did not agree to the FACE Act unless also the churches would be protected. And so underneath the FACE Act, it says it protects religious freedom by making it a federal crime to use force, threats, or physical obstruction to injure, intimidate, or interfere with anyone exercising their right to religious freedom at a place of worship. It also covers damage to property of places of worship. Okay, so there's a whole breakdown of that side of it too, which he does not cover in that. So again, we see another person at the official level, someone who's elected to do this, who is disregarding that part of the law and only focusing on what protects Don Lemon and these rioters and whoever is going against the Trump administration.
Yeah. I mean, it's blatant dishonesty, and this seems to be like an ever expanding problem. Even when I talk about like these agitators that stormed this church, and I don't remember her name, but the one that was the former NAACP head for the state, and um, no, that's the other one that defrauded it is her that also defrauded this homeless nonprofit that she worked for $1 million. Well, defrauded, in my opinion. I guess it's wages and hers. Certainly keeping her out of poverty, that's for sure. But you know, CNN had her on, and she just blatantly lied to them. No pushback, no anything. Says, "Oh no, we were just there worshiping, praying, but then we wanted to ask a question." That's not true. And the whole reason it's a FACE Act violation is because they were blocking the entrances and exits. They stormed into the building, and then they basically have these people hostage while they yell at them and hold up their hand for Renee Good. But that's not the reality that the media wants to reflect. They want to lie about it and pretend somehow these are like crusaders for justice. But I think the public is, most of us have woken up to this. What our media does, they take the view of the 10% of blue-haired moonbat wine moms out there that want to aggressively attack ICE, that do not want these deportations to continue, that want to protect these sex offenders, drug traffickers, murderers, whatever else that are here in our country illegally. They want to take that view of that 10% and make the illusion that that is what 80% of the people in the country think, and that nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, and it's how you know we don't have a king in the White House, because we have these rogue judges who can block justice for political gain. You know, like we see with the Don Lemon case, which is the reason why we don't see him on charges for what he's done. And these people that assisted him or were part of this riot, who are being now let go without just a slap on the wrist. And this is just the constant fraud, the constant injustice that we see in Minnesota. And it's just crazy that this is all being uncovered, and you can constantly see that there's just no respect in these Democrat states for Christians and for those who want to exercise their religious freedom. You know, like, why didn't he go into another place of business? Why couldn't they just riot in the streets? And when you asked about, you know, the CNN interview, why didn't they push back and ask her, have you been to this church before? Because if you've been to the church before, then you would probably recognize that there is a protocol to things, like there's a way to do things, like, and if you hadn't been to this place before, then why would you go into the church at this time, you know, in this specific church in this district, and, you know, cause this chaos? Like, why would you do that? So it's yeah, they're just lying. They're just, and I saw this too with not to rant a little bit, maybe just a little, but I saw the same thing when it came to Jasmine Crockett. Every time I listen to her, I get just so upset listening to her because it's a bunch of lies. Like the way that the left sees things in the world is just so skewed and delusional. It's just demonic. Like it's just it's the weirdest thing. It's like they can't see things with clarity, and then they formulate this way of viewing things to kind of do the lie. Like for example, when we saw Jasmine Crockett, when she called out Jeffrey Epstein and it was the wrong Jeffrey Epstein, and she backpedaled that with a lie, right? Blatant lie, like, you know. And it's just, and people still respect her. They still want to hear what she has to say. Obviously, this woman's not truthful. And then when you have this AG, I don't know how they voted him in, Keith Ellison, because this guy is just, he's corrupt. I don't know how to say. I can just tell by just his breakdown of the FACE Act. He's corrupt.
Oh yeah, and he's been a problem for a long time. This guy's, he's also been a proponent of CARE, which is the Council on American Islamic Relations. Same thing. His son is under investigation right now too. Can't remember what his position is with the city council, but essentially he's been away at college getting a 6-figure salary for a job he's not been doing for over a year. So I mean, this is just par for the course for Keith Ellison. The blatant lies, and again, keep in mind he's under investigation for this fraud too, because he's on video talking about dismissing charges for these fraudsters that donated to his campaign. And just to give you something real quick, this is current because right now up in Minneapolis, there's multiple riots going on because they just had to shoot another illegal alien that tried to attack. It wasn't ICE, actually. This time it was a Border Patrol special arrest. This guy had just was under investigation for assaults, I think. We'll double check that in a second. But Minnesota Governor Tim Walz rages against federal agents after fatal shooting. Oh, my phone just reset. So I can't. Oh, there it goes. After a fatal shooting, calls for White House to pull ICE from the state. Ignores the suspect was armed with a gun and pointed it at the police officers. Yeah, if you point a gun at the cops, you're going to get shot. That's how it works. Just like you try to run people over with your vehicle, expect to potentially get shot. Or if you attack them with a shovel, there's a possibility you get shot. If you grab their guns, even if they're paintball or pepperball guns, then yes, you're going to get shot. You're going to get shot at close range because you're grabbing their weapon. You're attempting to take their weapon from them and assumedly use it against them. So they are going to respond with force. This is the reality. But then we have these groups like Ice Watch trying to pretend it's something different. I saw a video from some leftists saying, well, these are basically their firearms are paid for by your tax dollars. So aren't they really yours? Shouldn't you be able to take them? Of course not. These people are insane. We've got to start treating them like they have a valid viewpoint.
Yeah. Yes. That was well articulated. I think we have to pray for Minnesota, man. This is their disrespect for authority, their the corruption, and like I mentioned, the disillusionment, the way that they see it's just very corrupt, very is skewed and not based in reality. Like it's just, and they lie. Like you see that with the AG, he's lying. You see it with Tim Walz. It's like, this is crazy. I like what Donald J. Trump said when I mentioned him. Donald J. Trump mentioned that there's no way as governor that this amount of fraud went unnoticed by him. Either he's involved in the corruption or he's just highly incompetent. He should have never been governor. And it's just like there's just something hovering over Minnesota. Like there's something demonic over that region. Just the amount of chaos that we've seen in that region, and especially when it comes to our ICE agents and it becomes to law enforcement. And I'm telling policemen to stand down. And I love, I'll mention this too, on the same point. You had Vice President J.D. Vance talk about that you have the local law enforcement and the mayors of the city just not wanting to cooperate with ICE. And so this makes ICE have to fulfill that warrant request by going into places like their workplaces to get them versus getting the information of where they live so they can go to their home and do this out of public sight. But they're pushing ICE agents to do this in the public. And then these paid agitators, which I believe a lot of them are paid agitators, are there to upset things and make things worse. And now we have, death on our hands and all this, and it's crazy.
Well, it's just going to continue to get more crazy when you have the mayor. I guess he's out there spinning them up right now, too, about this latest ICE-involved shooting. And the governor doing the same thing, just throwing gasoline on the fire, as it were. Today they also tried to seize control of the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport. Apparently, there were over 100 agitators arrested there. And I don't know what the airport has to do with ICE or immigration enforcement. Maybe it's just they know there's already huge problems with the hopefully nobody in the audience has to fly anywhere today, because basically expect delays. But they're taking advantage of a situation where there's already problems, throwing gas on the fire, trying to make it even worse, to try to, I don't know, strong arm, terrorize people into supporting their viewpoint just to make it stop. I mean, this has always been the tactic of the Democrat Party. I mean, they're just returning to their roots as the party of the KKK and terrorism. When they can't get their way politically, they turn to violence, and that's always what they've done.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about the agents at the airport, that they are actually assisting ICE agents in arresting illegal criminals.
Oh,
I heard
good.
something about that. So,
well, I know they were
yes,
smuggling $1 million a day through that airport for years, and nobody did anything about it. So again, it just makes me think, is whoever's pulling the strings on these agitators, they just want to shield from these investigations? Because a lot of this corruption and fraud, like, this isn't something that just started. It's been going on for years. So I think there's a lot of people, especially in the Democrat Party, that benefited from it, either whether it's kickbacks or whatever else, vote buying schemes. I mean, that's another one that's hardly getting any attention, is this ballot harvesting that was going on, and taking ballots from retirement communities and other places and having other people fill them out, paying people for their ballots. I mean, that's on video going back to, I think it was the 2022 election is where that video was. It might have been 2020. I'd have to go back and double check, but it's on video of them buying ballots, blank ballots from people that lived in Minneapolis, so they could fill them out for Democrats.
Yeah, and let's circle back to the persecution or the indictments, right? Because I know that a lot of us, including myself, wanted Pam Bondi to hop on this really quick and get these people arrested, make an example of them, that this is something that, we have to set a precedent for, because it's just something that's unacceptable when it comes to our Christian community. And Donald Trump has been very vocal on that he supports, Christians. That has been an attack under the Biden administration. And we see now that, when she does these rush indictments, that there is possibly this could happen, where it's being thrown out by the judges, who have political agenda and don't want to accept the case. Or in this case with Don Lemon, they know the agitators, or have a relationship somehow through someone else who knows the agitators, and the agitators are being protected. So I'm wondering how Pam Bondi is going to swing this, or what are they going to do to basically get these people indicted and arrested, or charged at least, for the things that they've done using the FACE Act, is what they mentioned.
I don't believe for a minute these things were rushed through. I mean, look at how quickly the Biden administration was able to arrest people over stuff, and we never heard this. We never had judges throw things out. So yeah, I don't believe this rushed idea. I think that's basically to help create air cover for Pam Bondi for not arresting anybody related to Russiagate or any of the other long-term corruption. And because I don't buy it there either at a year end. A few months to get the cases together, sure, not this long. But no, I relay this entirely on the feet of the judges. And, they did go, the judges, the magistrate did sign off on 3 of them, but I do think Don Lemon's being protected. He's a big, hero for the left. And then I'm going to go take one step that a lot of the conservatives in our audience are probably not going to be real happy with the 3 agitators that were already let out of jail. Now, I know that 2 of the 3 don't have any previous charges. I'm not sure about the guy that looks like a meth head. But the other 2 have never been arrested before. These crimes are not violent assaults or anything else. It's a first-time arrest. They did have to pay bond. So it would be normal for them to be released from jail once they paid the bond. There's nothing to suggest they're a flight risk or anything else. I know a lot of us are unhappy because they're agitators attacking federal operatives out in the street. But again, if there were anybody else for any crime, they would also be given an opportunity to bond themselves out of jail. Now, the other guy I'm not so sure about.
What are your thoughts on, Don Lemon's statement when he was interviewed? He said that the reason why he was attacked and became the face of this whole thing was because he was gay and black.
Yeah, that's a blatant lie. Um, well, oh man, I was about to say something mean there. I shouldn't. But yeah, yeah, that's a blatant lie. Like, he's on video committing numerous felonies. I wish I could think of this guy's name right now, but there's one of these YouTube attorneys out there, has a great short out there where he was a former prosecutor as well. He's a prosecutor, then he was a defense attorney. Now I don't know if he still practices, but I know he's on YouTube all over the place. But he did a breakdown of video just that Don Lemon posted himself, and then with statutes on what crimes he committed. So without a doubt, Don Lemon should also be in jail with the rest of them, and I guess probably released on OR at this point as well. But yeah, this is a corrupt judge, like you said. Look at all these judges that are blocking Trump from firing people, from doing things that are clearly in the power of the executive branch, blocking deportation efforts.
Their agenda is to stop Trump. They have nothing. They don't care about anything else. It's just to stop Trump.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, until somebody shows me differently, there's been one legitimate lawsuit against the Trump administration, and that was for paying bills that were for services already rendered before he was in office. Yeah, sorry, you may not like it, but you got to pay them if they delivered whatever. But otherwise, these are all just nonsense. These are just to stop Trump and stop progress. Right. That's the real key here. And, this magistrate judge, his wife works for Keith Ellison. That's what this is really about. It's to give Don Lemon an opportunity to go out there and run his mouth and try to pretend this is some racial or homophobic attack when it isn't. Like, he's on video breaking numerous federal civil rights laws, and he wants to pretend, that's not what happened.
I need to go do some research into how many churches in that area are multicultural or black churches, because this church, for whatever reason, was singled out. And then when you look at the rate, the people in there, they were predominantly white. And then he swung this whole thing saying white supremacy. But you stepped into their arena and you disrupted them. It's like, so majority. I think, I didn't see, when I looked at the video, I didn't see, but it doesn't matter. But the thing is that he's just swinging it that way, and it's fulfilling an agenda of his.
Yeah. And I guess somebody should tell that Asian lady that's in the sorry, real quick. I guess somebody should tell the Asian lady that was in there trying to protect her two kids that she belongs to a church full of white supremacists. Apparently, she hasn't figured it out yet.
Well, tell that to Don Lemon, who's also married to a white man. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
This delusion. It's delusion.
Exactly. Colonizer in the sheets.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. First sponsor is Your Skincare. This is a great brand that I love, and with this brand since 2023. They are a skincare and makeup brand. They do all clean stuff. They are also their products are also made here in the USA. And I want to share with you guys a code that you can use if you would like to try them out. This is one of the top skincare brands that I would personally recommend. I love this brand. I basically have their whole line, I think, except for maybe the new glosses or lip balms that they plan on releasing soon. So if you want to check their website out, which I would recommend, you can screenshot that link there, or if you are looking at our show notes, that link will be in the show notes, depending on where you're watching from. And if you click on that link, it will take you to an AI tool where you can put in information. It's going to ask you about your demographic information, your eating habits, and all that, those things that affect your skin, so that it can give you a targeted plan as to what the issues on your skin are and what's causing it. Along with that is you'll get free birthday gifts, free refills, and also free shipping, and there will be a discount on your order. Okay. Also, the other option, if you want to go through Amazon, you can go through my Amazon storefront, Aisha Schreiner. And you can use that code Aisha15 off, and you just get 15% off if you want to go through Amazon. Both their website, if you go through the website, or Amazon, they deliver within 1 to 3 business days. So you're not missing out on anything there when it comes to delivery. But I love this brand. And if you see my skin on live or wherever video and it looks pretty decent, this is the reason why. This is the main brand that I've consistently used. I dip and dabble in some other things, of course, because I'm a beauty creator and I try a lot of stuff. But this is the brand that I consistently use. So they're super helpful and making your skin look youthful, dealing with the common issues of hyperpigmentation, even melasma, which is that deep embedded spots into the skin. They have something for that too. Like this brand is just bomb. and their stuff is clean. It's also for sensitive skin as well, even the product that they have for melasma. So it's really awesome. I would highly recommend checking them out. All right. So discussing the Don Lemon, the rioters indictment, let's pray for Minnesota, guys. We definitely need prayers there. Shifting gears here to Greenland. Mike, I don't know how well you've been following this story. You usually follow things way better than I do, but I wanted to discuss Greenland and what this means for the U.S. and Trump's agenda here. Also, the fact that, you know, in Davos, I don't know if you heard Trump's speech in Davos. I think it was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Trump style all the way. It was funny. He called out his enemies. He called out those were his allies. He said that the windmills were stupid and only China sells to stupid people, which calls out, you know, a lot of European countries. And
Yes.
it's wild that you know, it's his fashion. But first he put the tariffs on, right, when they refused to give Greenland, and then he backed out of that. But this was negotiation purposes. This wasn't like a fumble, so to
Yes.
say, on his part. What are your thoughts on acquiring Greenland, or I guess we can skip ahead to the part where we have an agreement, right? Where we're going to have certain portions, territories within Greenland, and Trump is satisfied with that. So, what are your thoughts on this? And he cited also, I want to get your thoughts on the national security portion. Do you think it's only national security, or do you think that there's something more?
Well, I think it's both national security, and pressuring Greenland into finally. Well, right now, you know, they have huge amounts of rare earth minerals and other natural resources that they don't allow their own citizens to harvest or to utilize. So I think it's a little bit of both. But the bottom line is the United States security cannot be dependent on NATO. NATO is useless. Greenland, they were supposed to put, you know, well, let me wind this back. So Denmark was supposed to put $200 million, sorry, $200 billion into defending Greenland, updating NATO, updating their military, and they instead put $2 billion. So 1% of what they agreed to during Trump's first term. That's part of why he's upset. NATO is basically useless right now. They're going to get us pulled into a foreign war if we don't get very careful here with them soon anyway, regarding Russia and Ukraine. I mean, it's obviously Germany, France, and the UK are all chomping at the bit for war with Russia right now. We're going to get sucked into that. But they're still not meeting their obligations. They essentially, you know, we are their military. We are their defender. Almost no countries are living up to the obligations and promises that they've made. And Denmark's been one of the worst. So we cannot allow for them. I'm sorry, we cannot put ourselves in a position where we are dependent on them for our defense. We have to have early warning stations up there. We have to, this golden dome that we're going to implement, that is key real estate to defend us from any attack that comes over from Russia. I know people keep bringing up China, but I don't know why China would fire missiles over the poles. It doesn't make any sense when they would just fire them over the ocean from California. But anyway, that's a whole nother point. Maybe there's more there than I know. But yeah, regardless, at the end of the day, I think Trump's right. If we don't do something, Russia or China will move on it, and then we're going to be in a horrible place. So whether it's the U.S. acquiring Greenland or them just giving us access to put in bases up there, put in defense systems, and then also opening up the oil, rare earth minerals, and other resources to us and to their own people, you know, that's what I think Trump really wants.
I agree with you. Especially, I love that you brought up the Golden Dome, because this is going to mark all of North America. You know, of course, is us putting Greenland as a part of that. And I think that was his push, was like, we're going to do this Golden Dome, and Greenland looks to us for security. I mean, we're the superpower here, and we're the only one that will be able to defend them. And then we have the Golden Dome, so they, of course, they want to be part of that. And you know, Europe, I believe, he mentioned this, and he said it's so funny. I had to go and look it up, because he was like, you know, Europe is sending these sled dogs, or these dog sleds, he said. He made it sound like it was nothing really, you know, important. It was kind of, I guess, just a deterrent to show the U.S., hey, we're going to do something. But when you look this up, well, this is like, you know, 12 specially trained guys, but like 12 of them They have like 11 to 15 dogs on a sled, and they are to guard this portion of Greenland where there could be some access of foreign adversaries like Russia, etc. But it's very hard in that area because of the weather in that area. But it's like 12 people. I mean, they're Navy SEALs trained, but
Yeah.
that's not enough to defeat an army like we got one from Russia or China.
Yeah, I hate to tell NATO this, but you can't defend Greenland with 36 people. It's going to take a lot more than that.
Yeah, it's wild. It's funny. That yeah. So then I understood why Trump said it so flippantly, because it is a joke to do that.
Yeah,
considering these other world powers that are that could take over Greenland.
Well, it was again, it's to generate a fake headline, a fake news headline for the media that hates Trump. That's the only purpose. I mean, the soldiers from Germany barely spent 24 hours. It was basically a sleepover. They sent them in, and then they went right back to Germany. They're not there. France, I guess, was there a little longer, but I guess they had to teach the people how to properly surrender to President Trump. But again, this isn't going to get it done. This isn't what you agreed to. Somebody, and I wish I could remember the exact numbers, figured out for their 12 sled dog patrols that are out there defending Greenland's borders that each individual dog is responsible for something like 1,200 kilometers of their coastline. So that doesn't work. You can't defend a country that way.
Yeah, and I even was looking up the weaponry that these people use, and they're using like World War I type rifles because it's supposed to be what's better for the terrain and with the area, right? That's what they said. They said funny. when it comes to the guns not jamming because it's super cold out there. I think it gets below 50 degrees or something, negative 50 or whatever. And those were the best weapons because I was like, why are we using World War I guns? But then, as somebody who doesn't understand guns, I have to look it up. So they're saying for that area for, and what they have to do. And it's mainly, they said they can be tactical if they need to be, these soldiers or these, people that are on a dog sled. But it's mainly to protect from polar bears too. So
that I believe. And like there is some truth to that. Like when you get to those kind of extreme Arctic conditions, you do need some specialized weaponry because, well, even like some regular gun oil lubricants will freeze solid and just shatter off when it gets that cold. I mean, I don't think you have to go back to World War I bolt action rifles. I mean, I know we do have other modern weapons that are adapted to that climate, or special like lubes for AR-15s or M4s. You're in the military. That will work under Arctic conditions. I actually got a buddy that part of his job while he was in the military was to go up to Alaska and test our equipment for extreme conditions. He drove tanks for years before that, so that's primarily what he was doing up there, is driving tanks, trucks, and other heavy machinery to the point of failure so they could figure out what needed to be replaced in case we ever had to, I don't know, go to war in Siberia or something.
Yeah. And I thought that we have B-2 bombers. We have all of these things that Trump has shown we are developing. And also now we have AI, which we're leading in. So I thought maybe we would have some weaponry that would be, great for what they have to deal with in the Arctic. So,
we do.
So, but they also, they don't only have the World War I guns. I also saw that they have handguns too, as well. But it's like, why don't you guys have the most updated equipment? And I also read that there was pushback for them to have updated equipment because they were citing that the World War I guns were the best for them to use, in that type of weather. But yeah, so you know more about guns than I do, but that's what I read. So
yeah, if this was just like for park rangers and polar bears, I'd say, fine. They want to give them old bolt action rifles. That's cool, whatever. But you have to be able to adequately defend yourself. And again, I feel like this problem is at this point over 5 years old because I don't know when, I can't remember when NATO made the agreement to update and meet their, I mean, they have lawful obligations that most countries in NATO have not met for 30 plus years. They're supposed to be spending a percentage of the country's GDP on the military so that it's up to date and current. And again, like I say all the time, I don't expect perfection out of these countries. But again, let's go back to Denmark. When you make the agreement that you're going to spend X amount of dollars and update things, and you spend 1% of that and then laugh about it, Yeah, I
Yeah.
just don't really care. We can't rely on them for our defense. We're going to have to get engaged because we can't allow a weakness for Denmark and Greenland to harm our potential safety here.
Yeah. That's going to take us right into the next topic. But I just saw something breaking. This is from Eric Doherty. Oh, Doherty. It says,
Hmm.
breaking, ABC is facing mass calls to be sued after being caught blatantly lying that a 5-year-old boy was detained by ICE, when in reality he
Yes.
was rescued after being abandoned, taken to McDonald's and a warm facility in Texas. And I think I also saw, y'all can quote me if I'm wrong or just go look this up, but I remember seeing something that said that the mom refused to also take the little kid.
Yeah, I saw that too. Now I don't know if
I
that's
remember seeing a headline.
confirmed. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true. They all ran with this story to try to pretend somehow ICE is now kidnapping 5-year-olds. Nothing can be further from the truth. We know the kid's father abandoned him to run away, so we know that portion's true. This kid wasn't harmed. He wasn't abused. They didn't put him in handcuffs and throw him in the back of a cruiser or anything like that. But again, the left's lost their minds and is totally just detached from reality and is pretending things that are happening that aren't. I mean, I didn't see any of them say a word. Most of these dinosaur media entities refuse to even talk about the 380,000 kids that Biden lost at the U.S. border. Um, so, I don't want to hear it now. The virtue signaling has got to stop. They've got to stop being a propaganda outlet for the left where they run stories like this that are blatantly false. And again, like, these aren't dumb people. They can fact check these things. I understand, like, things are in the heat of the moment and you make a wrong call, or you say something, it's this agency when it's actually that agency. I get when they're doing live coverage and mistakes happen, but you're putting it up even as breaking news, you have to do a basic amount of fact checking instead of just being a mouthpiece for these violent agitators all over the country right now.
Yeah, I agree. The next thing I wanted to get into, which we talked about leaving NATO, right? So the
Yeah.
U.S. is also leaving WHO, and I've seen some people uh, not like this, or I think it's just the fact that Trump's doing it, so they have the issue. I think that's one reason. I
Yes.
understand some concerns if you don't really understand what the United States put into WHO, and also where we get our health information from. That WHO was not the only one that gives us information, and the fact that there are some there's some countries that don't allow the U.S. access to their data, etc. But that was even during WHO, right? So that's not really going to necessarily do much since we're leaving WHO. Anyways, I mean, because for example, Donald Trump cited that he didn't like how WHO handled COVID. None of us did, right? And WHO is basically getting their intel from these individual, states, these individual nations, and that's how they come up with, the vaccines, whatever things that needs to be done, basically globally, to combat these infirmities and illnesses and stuff. But you still had during COVID where China basically shut off their supplies to us and left us kind of scrapping, which totally understandable, right? They have to protect their nation in, uh, during that time and their supplies, and they're going to put their nation first, as what any nation would do. But I don't really see, when we look at the fact that we put most of the funding into WHO in terms of our unrequired funding that we did. Also, the fact that we didn't have the influence when we were the ones who were giving the most amount of money. You had some Americans that were there, but in terms of making the decisions and all that, Americans weren't necessarily a part of that board, which is what Trump was also stating. And we also have the CDC, we have the NIH, we have all these other entities that we could also lean on when it comes to health, getting our health and stuff from them as well. But I don't know we haven't talked about this yet, but I want to know what your thoughts are on us leaving it.
Well, Tedros, that runs the World Health Organization, is essentially China's puppet anyway. They provide him with this huge amount of funding, both for the organization and personally. And yeah, the World Health Organization is not about health. They were there to push vaccine passports and a lot of other nonsense that would violate nation sovereignty. They specifically wanted a treaty that would override the sovereignty of many nations. And this was going on while Biden was in. Thank God there were a lot of leaders in Africa that actually saw through this and stood up, because if it weren't for that, it probably would have gotten pushed through then, and we would have these vaccine passports and whatever. We'd be fighting it in court right now. And then Biden, I'm sure, would have signed on with the treaty there for that. But yeah, this is not America's friend. They don't look. The World Health Organization does not care about your health. They're there to push their agenda of global communism. That's really what it is. They want to reach into your wallet. They want to control aspects of your life. It's just like the the WEF, the World Economic Forum. The World Health Organization is a sister entity, and we should be defunding and leaving all of these, and honestly asking for a refund, since look at how many bad calls or blatant lies they pushed during COVID, and they knew it. Everybody knows they knew it now. It was all about gaining control, eliminating personal rights, and eliminating nation sovereignty, so the WHO could step in and dictate health policy in individual countries, and also do forced vaccines. So again, I have no respect for the World Health Organization. There may have been a point back, I don't know if this is ever true, that they were doing some good, because I know other entities within the UN at one point were doing good, 50 years ago, but most of these just have to go. They're never about what they say. They're about pushing Islamization throughout Europe, throughout Africa, and throughout the United States soon, and protecting the Middle East. And they're just a tool for global communism. It isn't about anything else.
Now I do see that. I was looking up recently because I remember reading that the United States owes just regular dues, from 2024 to 2025. So it says that what we owe adds up to 260 million and 280 million, and that has to be paid before you fully complete a withdrawal from WHO. So, and that outstanding debt does remain a dispute. So yeah, so okay, so that's what.
Well, let's see them come here and collect it with their army. We'll see how that one plays out. But I'm with Trump on this. I'm with Trump on a lot of things, especially when we talk about turning the pyramid upside down, which we learned in school that's how it should have been. When we look at the fact that, a lot of people go after, I call him right now Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, when people go after him and say all these things that he's unqualified. But when you look at him versus the person that was leading, the health organization under Biden, it's a big contrast. I mean, this woman did not look like she worked out. She did not look like this was her lifestyle. When we look at the person that Trump has appointed, this guy clearly, he's older man, but he clearly looks fit. And like, he's about that, business. He's about the health of our nation. And I think he's done some really good things. So, so I think that we're going to be good without WHO. And, I've seen some, like I mentioned, people online saying things. I feel like you guys got to really do your research before you start spewing things online and claiming that Trump doesn't know what he's doing when he takes us out of WHO or NATO, etc. Do the research. Don't just go by what CNN and all these other news outlets that tells you half truths to basically fit their Democratic agenda. Go by what they say, because you'll be really misinformed, right? And like, I look at some of these comments and I really want to, sometimes when I have the time, I want to hit the comment section and just share what I have researched and know that will totally throw your claim or whatever your bias is out of the water when it comes to this situation, because this does seem like the best thing in an interest of the United States, and Trump is doing everything, America first. And with that being said, I do want to ask you this also, Mike. So let me know your thoughts on this, because I've heard Ben Shapiro say this. I was listening to Ben Shapiro. I agree with him on some of the things. He makes me look up a lot of stuff because he spits a lot of facts. But one of the things he said was that he had warned, and I just started tuning into Ben Shapiro, so I haven't been watching him all this time. I usually would watch Charlie Kirk and then research. So I'd watch and then research, because, they say things and you want to make sure if you're going to cite those things, or if those things sound good, that they're actually accurate. But anyways, one thing that Ben Shapiro stated was that he had warned that these tariffs would drive our allies to China. I don't know if you've heard that.
So he's basically saying that, we put tariffs on Europe, or for example, Canada is a great example of this, of how the current prime minister right now is saying something about the reign of America is over. And Trump addressed him at Davos, right? Um, when he mentioned, like, want you to know that Canada would be nothing, his exact word, nothing without the United States. But it seems like the prime minister is willing to open up their markets to China, right, to combat, I guess, the losses that they'll face with the tariffs that Trump has placed on. And Ben Shapiro's basic conclusion is that these tariffs, we have to be careful with them because they could end up pushing our allies into our hands of our enemies. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, this is, Ben Shapiro has always, been a neocon. This has been the neocon argument against tariffs this whole time. And, they don't like them because they could potentially cut into profits of a lot of these globalist corporations. That's really why they have that viewpoint, because, they're concerned about the profits they make overseas. The bottom line is, though, these tariffs are there because these countries have been abusing us, taking advantage of us for years. In Canada specifically, they've had tariffs on U.S. products up to hundreds of percentages for years. They never met their, well, I guess they did briefly to begin with, but they've been violating the terms of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, almost since it went into effect, tariffing goods out of the United States. Well, we had zero or low tariffs on anything out of, I think it was zero. We allow their banks and their other companies into into the United States and into our markets. They don't do the same for us. So it's been an abusive relationship that's been totally one-sided for 30 plus years with Canada. So Trump is just trying to level the playing field, make them actually live up to what they already agreed to. They shouldn't be taxing our food, farm, and dairy products at 300+% and then crying about it when we want to tariff their whiskey at 50%. It's totally one-sided. But I also think, when somebody's in a place of privilege where they've had this power and been abusing us for so long, just the thought of equality suddenly feels like abuse. Oh, well, we've been done this forever. Why should we change this now? This benefits us economically. I don't care if it drives Canada to China. They're going to be destabilized.
They're going to regret that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a massive, massive mistake. They're already in bed with China. They let China do military exercises within Canada's borders. And there's some suspicious stuff about the last one they just had, where we all suddenly had mysterious power outages over in Portland, Oregon, and I'm blanking on the other city, as China was doing their drills up there. But yeah, you know what? These people... This is to gas up the left. That is exactly what this is. They want everybody, oh, there's this monster Trump out there again, just hurting our neighbors in Canada, making fun of them. And unfortunately, I do think Ben Shapiro and a lot of these just neocons, they don't. It's either a willful ignorance or it's just like the media here, a misrepresentation of what's actually happening. And I know that the people like that on the right are kind of your stock market right. It's your blue bloods. And yes, it may be affecting profits that they have from their portfolio of overseas companies, because now they are having to pay these tariffs to the United States. But you've got to actually be America first. These tariffs are absolutely in our interest, as we've seen. And most countries will fold like a cheap suit the minute they're on there, because they know we're right. Two, they are much more dependent on us than we are dependent on them.
Very well said. I agree with you 100% on that, because I don't think Trump's goal is to hurt these nations, because he's, even in Davos, he's mentioned that his mom is Scottish, and then his dad is from German. And he loves those nations. So it's not that he's trying to hurt these nations, but at the same time, we can't allow America to continue to go down the path it was going, because we wouldn't have a future. We wouldn't be continue to be the world power. We wouldn't be able to develop the weapons that we have to protect ourselves. We wouldn't be able to have this golden dome. We wouldn't be able to protect our allies like Israel or Canada or whatever, Greenland. We wouldn't be able to do those things if we continue to allow our nation to fall victim to all of these leeches, basically, that just want to rob our economy, even within our own nation. And so I think Trump is doing, I think he's doing an amazing job. I think he's putting America first globally and also here at home as well. And when you have these governors like Tim Walz and others who have an agenda to get wealth, to grow wealthy by
Yes.
a corrupt means, taking the American taxpayer dollars. For example, he mentioned Elon Omar, how she got to her status of, I think, $30 million, whatever amount she makes, and only having a government job. Who knows? Especially after all this corruption has been exposed. But you constantly see this, in the states of these Democrat states is what we're seeing, because there's the one who's mainly being exposed right now and coming out with all this stuff. And I don't, Tim Walz kind of framed it as if Nick Shirley had something to do, like Nick Shirley was in bed with Donald J. Trump and he had some cahoots, but that he's an independent journalist, any of us could have gone and done that. It's just this thing slipped into his lap and he exposed it, and kudos to him for doing it. Because again, if we're about America first, we're about restoring the American dream. We're about, making sure that the future of this nation and for our children, they're able to buy homes. They don't have to wait till they're in their 50s. They don't have to take a 50-year, mortgage loan out and all this stuff. Then we have to get control of this economy.
Yeah. Well, I want to say one thing on the tariffs real quick. Like, when Trump is pushing a punitive tariff, it's pretty obvious. Like the recent one with anybody doing business with Iran, we're adding a 50% tariff. Most of these tariffs were, it wasn't even a mirror back to what they were doing to us. They might be taxing our goods at, say, 45%, and then Trump would issue a return tariff of 15%. It was just to get them to come to the table and play ball, drop the tariffs on U.S. products, or in a lot of cases, stop blocking us from entry, from being able to sell our goods there, but then expecting access to U.S. markets. And then, on Tim Walz and the rest of these people that are going after the reporters that are really out there doing the job the mainstream media refuses to do. We used to actually have investigative journalists. They used to look into fraud like this. I just happened to catch a little bit of an interview of a journalist in Maine, where we're also seeing a lot of these fraud rings exposed, talking about how, like, all of a sudden he's done this stuff locally for years, and now all of a sudden that he's looking into these fraud rings and Medicaid, Medicare, the same types of fraud. Now all of a sudden he's getting death threats, he's getting called all kinds of names, everything else, and it's didn't seem to be affecting him as much, but his family, he's like, that's who's really scared, that his wife, will listen to the messages on the machine about how their whole family is a bunch of white supremacist KKK for investigating this stuff.
We got to stop this as a nation. I think even on the right, like, we can't just be threatening people's lives like this. Like, and I want to say let the justice system do its job, but it seems like there could be an argument for that they've failed, and we can't necessarily rely on them. However, I don't think that even though our tax dollars has been mishandled the way it has, we don't have the full understanding of how that happened. That is still under investigation. And we can't just go around threatening these government officials. Like, don't vote them in. Do your research.
This guy was just a journalist. This guy works for a local TV station and started looking into the home health care agency fraud, and then started getting death threats.
Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. Yeah. I thought you said Tim Walz was getting the death threats.
No, not Tim Walz. No, he's encouraging it. I would say, when he calls people like Nick Shirley a white supremacist, or says that that's why he did it. That he's what did he call him? He called him Trump something or other. You touched on it. He made it seem like they are. Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah. And the left is prime example of that. I mean, this was not my proudest moment of Donald J. Trump, was when I can't remember the name of the guy who passed away due to his son killing him and his wife. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
this was kind of recent. A few months ago.
I can see his picture in my head. I know he used to be on. He was on the show All in the Family back in.
He went hard after Trump in his first term. I think is why Trump didn't like him. But it's still, to dismiss his life the way he did was very distasteful.
Rob Reiner.
Okay, Rob Reiner. Thank you. That was distasteful. Okay.
Yeah.
Especially in his contradictory, because he says that he doesn't like, doesn't want to do death. He doesn't like death. He's, doesn't like the Ukraine-Russia war because of death. Same thing. Okay. This is still the case of death. So that was distasteful. Okay. And I don't agree. I think that was wrong of Trump to do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Trump does kind of put his foot in his mouth like that unnecessarily.
He makes it hard.
I call it an unforced error because there's no reason, I guess what kills me about it is like, we know he's smarter than that. And other times,
Yeah.
even when it's been somebody that's been the opposite side of the political aisle, like the Supreme Court Justice, I just blanked on her name. Man, my brain must not be working today. But when she passed away, he had very nice things to say about her.
Yes, I know
Talked
you're
about
talking
all her
about.
accomplishments and her achievements throughout her life. Didn't bring up any of the other nasty stuff or mention about the, things she'd said about him. It was, pray for her, pray for her family, blah, blah, blah. Look at her lifetime of accomplishments. She was a great woman. So
Yeah.
I don't know if this guy just really rubbed
Which
Trump the
was,
wrong way or what, but yeah, it was not a good way to do
oh,
it. Sorry,
and he
sorry.
had multiple attacks against Trump, and when it came to the Russiagate and stuff like that too, online. So,
Yeah.
but still, like when it comes to, well, I guess Trump could say he almost could have lost everything, going through that. And but still, I think it wasn't right to do. So,
No,
yeah,
uncalled
we got
for,
to condemn
unforced
it.
error.
Yeah, we got to condemn it on both sides because it's not right. And especially the left. The left is just they're eating this up in the rhetoric of their so-called leaders, their governors, their AOC, all of them is they're not helping. They're encouraging it. They have language that's extremely, they're smart because they have language that doesn't necessarily overtly say it. It's kind of like coded, but it encourages the action, so and I think it's mainly due to the fact that they're losing a lot of ground. I think that's partially number one is, and that's why they did not want Trump to be president because they would lose so much. He was going to uncover so much, and he did his first term. Uncovered so much fraud, waste, and abuse. First we had Doge doing it and sharing with the American public where all of our tax dollars were going, and how we even got here and how we started with the, tariffs, and then we move into taxing our own people, and he's bringing us back to the tariff system. And then Minnesota and California, first California, then Minnesota. So yeah, totally understandable why they don't want him and they tried to bury him. They don't want him to be at the level of power that he has because he was not going to relent. But I partially think they created this when they went after him so hard as to destroy him in his first term. I think they created it.
I agree. And yeah, I think right now the left is really just pushing things so far because they know they're losing ground with both the American people and apparently with reality. So I do want to point out one other thing. We know we've really hit on Minnesota a lot, but that's not the only place. I want to read you a headline real quick. This is from Gateway Pundit. Deranged Arizona Attorney General threatens ICE, encourages leftists to shoot and kill agents. We have a stand your ground law. You can defend yourself with lethal force. And she's talking about, against ICE agents. It's trying to drive more of these maniacs out there. Unfortunately, at some point, an ICE agent is going to lose their life in one of these conflicts that they're instigating. I mean, they're only going to get lucky for so long. When you're on a two-way range, eventually bad things happen. But the other side of this is you're going to have a lot more leftist agitators and criminal illegal aliens get killed in the process because they try to draw down on law enforcement. I mean, they're encouraging this, and there's no getting around it.
It's wild. I'll mention this, and then I guess we're getting to the end of our time here. But there was a video I saw circulating of an ICE agent who stopped, and I think they were arresting somebody who was a sex offender, and they were being obstructed by people. And in this video, you see the ICE agent drives his truck near one of the people that was out there, and it ended up being a reporter. I don't think that a reporter was obstructing. It was somebody else who was yelling and making noise, whatever. And he asked him, he goes, you understand we're arresting a sex offender, and this is the people that you are protecting. And the woman goes, I'm just a reporter, I'm here recording, whatever. And then he points to the car behind him that I guess had a woman in there who was screaming and making all obscene noises and stuff as he's trying to carry out a warrant. And in my mind, I'm like, as I said in the last podcast, is like it's a double standard, and it's just winged on an agenda being pushed because they scream the Epstein files, which everything has been given to the public now, and they are protecting people who come into this country already broke one law. Yeah. and now they're protecting the people that are sex offenders, child abusers, killers. And I love that Trump did a recent press conference where he actually brought receipts. He showed the faces of individuals that ICE have been arresting that were, heinous criminals. And I love that his language. He said they make our criminals look like, what did he say? He made them look like
I know,
kids,
I didn't hear this one.
basically, like, because these people. Yeah, this is what he said in a recent press conference. I think he took over for Caroline Leavitt, and he just came out, and the room was packed with reporters, of course. But he came with receipts like he always does, because you can't count on the media to report the facts. And so he has to, unfortunately, not only be president of the United States, but also come with reports. So lots of reports that these reporters should be bringing to the American people.
Be a fact checker for the media. Yeah, I did not hear the statement, but I did see the part where he had the binder full of all these murderers, sex offenders, predators, and everyone else that had been arrested just over the last few weeks in Minnesota. I can't remember if he said it was the last month, but slams it down on the table, and they could have gone through it, but again, they mischaracterize it. They act like we're just going after innocent children that just happen to cross the border illegally. But real quick correction, though, too. They have not released the Epstein files. They are still sitting on over 5.2 million documents and also blocking the release of others, and are also illegally redacting the files they have released. So, again, we got to be honest with what the DOJ is doing.
But I thought there was a release of 150, right?
But when you're required by law to release everything, that's not even close to meeting your obligations. There's actually going to be a vote on holding Bondi in contempt of Congress next week, because she's now over 30 days past the due date on releasing these files, and hasn't even touched any of the video or any of the other stuff yet. So we'll see what happens there. But Ilhan Omar has also decided to insert herself into this latest shooting. Ilhan Omar calls fatal shooting of armed suspect in Minneapolis an execution, and accuses federal agents of targeting peaceful residents. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about Ilhan Omar? I mean, they're in this together, and this is one thing that Trump mentioned. The one thing you can count on the Democrats, they have horrible policy, but they stick together. That's the one thing that you can count on them to do. They have that mobilization where they stick together in their delusion. Yeah, like a cult.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
It looks like there is another. It looks like there's also. Sorry, I'm reading all this as it breaks. They're now setting dumpsters on fire, throwing rocks at ICE agents, attacking an armored vehicle, and it looks like they have a separate angle of the shooting now, which, I think the first one is pretty clear, but this one definitely shows the guy draw an attempt. Looks like he's attempting to fire. Again, I haven't actually seen this video. I'm just looking at an angle of it right now, some frames. But yeah, this is a clear case of self-defense. There should be no doubt about it. The video is obvious. He drew first.
No, we'll see how this plays out, as always. I think so, guys. I want to encourage all of us. Let's pray definitely for Minnesota, and let's pray for our ICE agents. I watched CBN recently, and I love that Franklin Graham, he ended that interview that he had with a prayer, and he prayed for Kristi Noem, how hard her job is doing all of this, and he also prayed for our ICE agents, etc. So I'm going to close us out today in prayer for our ICE agents, for Minnesota, for our nation as well, and for the wisdom of Donald Trump, and then we'll get to our closing statements, okay? So, Lord, just thank you so much for this beautiful nation. And we ask, God, that the heat does get turned all the way down, Father. We ask you to help Kristi Noem. We ask you to protect our ICE agents, Jesus. Please help them to consistently be on the right side of these things, even though they are targeted. They have to fear their own life as they go out and try to execute the law. Father, I pray, Father, that you would be a shield around them, kind of like how you were with Elijah when Elisha told Elijah about the army, when Elijah's servant told him about the army that they were facing, and Elijah told him to told you to open up his servant's eyes to see that the army of the Lord was greater than the army that was coming against them. So Lord, I just ask that you would be that protection on over every ICE agent. I ask also Lord, that the people that are protesting this, that they would do this in a lawful way. If they don't like something, that they would protest in a peaceful manner, Father, that they would put down their weapons, Jesus, and they would fight at the ballot, Lord. I also pray, Father, that you would root out all corruption, all the waste and the fraud and abuse in our nation, Jesus. I prayed for the wisdom of Donald Trump and the people surrounding him when it comes to the intel he gets and it comes to the decisions that he makes for our nation, and the friends and the adversaries that will arise as a result of that. Lord, I pray for his divine protection, that he'd finish out the rest of his term strong and with many, many wins, God. And I pray that he executes your will in his term the entire time. And Jesus, please open up our eyes to see what's going on. And I pray that as we are Christians, that revival takes place in this nation. We bring many to know who you are and to lift you up as Lord and as King. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So,
Well
guys, thank you all so much for joining us. If you want to follow Mike Lauber, he has his own podcast called The Insurrection, which is bomb. You can check him out. He streams live every single day. Can you tell me that time again?
Yeah, Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to noon Eastern. And tomorrow evening, we don't know what time, we will post on Ex American News. Annie and I are going to be doing a roundtable discussion with various activists and experts on Iran to discuss what's going on over there. It's probably going to be around 3 p.m. in the afternoon. It's not locked in yet, but we will have a post out on Ex American News either later today or early tomorrow once we have that settled.
Well, let me know. Let me know so that way I can share that on my social, because I'm sure people would like to tune in. I will tune into that as well. So yeah, let me know when you guys lock in on the time. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me again for part 2 of this as we dissect everything happening in our nation. You're awesome. I love your commentary and the knowledge that you bring.
Thank you for having me.
To my
Always
audience,
appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, guys. Well, we will see you guys next week, Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m. ET. Until then, guys, stay in prayer for our nation, stay alert, and please make sure to do your research on all the things happening, even if you don't agree with them firsthand. Do the research and then make your decision. I'll see you guys then. Bye for now.